I'm sitting out here now because the pebble does not bother me when I'm on a beanbag because the pebble kind of molds into the shape of the beanbag, hence doesn't bother me. But yeah, sun's just come out. I am thinking about psychology and advice that I could give people if they were to go on to become gods. If they were to go on to create a timeline, I feel like psychology and understanding human psychology is actually quite an important thing because um, if you want, to create angels, as I would call them, and give them certain title names, I feel like there's a lot more to it than just saying, be this character. I feel like there's also a lot of truth to, forming that person and shaping their lives. Although you can't actually be involved in, in actually like controlling them or anything, you can give them certain past lives that would make them. This is what I'm thinking in my head, and it's something that I want to tell you. Like, if you were to create an angel of people's wish, I feel like you would kind of need to give them lots of lives. What does everyone want? Everyone wants to be young. There's a lot of people on earth would say that, I'd love to be young forever. And so I feel like to shape someone like Brittany is quite an interesting character. I mean, yes, it probably would lead to being the world's wish. Probably would drive someone mad because the world wants so many different things and it's absolutely impossible to be the world's wish. So I feel like maybe the reason why part of her madness has, formed, is because of this kind of desire to want to please everyone, but at the same time find that you're not pleasing yourself, and then get confused as to, should I just please myself? And then you do have that need to just please yourself, and then you kind of realize that you do actually like the attention, or you do actually want to. I don't know. There's a lot of confusion with that title, and I'm wondering if maybe that that has come from that title. Wanting to be what everyone wants, but at the same time, everyone wants so many things, and a lot of people do genuinely like insulting people. And well, if you're sort of designed to be like the world's wish, and the world wants to, have celebrities to just talk about and just to insult and mock, then you can actually get some sort of satisfaction from just being mocked, or just being, I feel like a lot of people want to know the difference between, my role and personality would be to try and get people to know who Christ is, know who God is. I am God, so hence getting to know me is part of that. But I also know that there's a lot of people who, particularly Christians, who are excited at the prospect of Christ coming down, and a lot of people being proved wrong. You don't know who Christ is, and even though they will probably be one of the ones that fall for this, they don't know this. They have, though, this desire to, you know, for God to punish people. And I feel like that's the only way I can punish people, by being like, hey, I'm here, who believes me? And then having loads of people say, no, we don't believe you. And then the evidence to be shown, for the truth to be revealed through time, and them realizing that actually, yeah, a lot of things do point to her. And I do think that this reincarnation belief is actually the only way to fix this world, because, you know, people will stop just wanting to be whatever they are, and they'll start realizing that actually we are just like one big family. Jewish people want to continue the line of the Jewish people, and Islam wants to continue that line, and Christians, would prefer their children to be more like them, and so everyone has this need. But I feel like as soon as you realize that we're actually all just one big family, and you're all just different strands of this big family, and actually God and Christ is actually, the pyramid at the top, the bit at the top, then suddenly you all become the same thing, and you realize that actually you have no control over what happens, and you might be a different from a different line in your next life. And I think as soon as you can relate it to yourself, as soon as you can see that we're all one big pyramid, and even though you'd want to continue on your pyramid, on your strand of line, that's not how it's going to be. Then I feel like that a lot of things will change, and people will see things very differently. And when it comes to creating, if you want to go on to become a god and become your own, understanding human psychology and how to form certain people, making them react in certain ways, it is very important. Britney Spears does annoy me, and I think she's lost her mind, but at the same time I also feel compelled compelled to know more about her, to talk more about her, and I'm wondering. I've always had this, compel us. There is a certain, like her fans said, a sort of magic about her that makes people want to know her, and I feel the same way. And maybe the reason why people feel the same way is because I feel the same way. Like I feel the strange bond, even though it doesn't always make sense. And I never saw madness in her. Even when she shaved her head, I thought she just went through a bad patch. Like I never saw madness in her. It was only when she started dancing around with in underwear on stage, that was when I started being like, yeah, no, going too far. I liked the skin suit where she took it off, and you couldn't see anything, and it was really nice. And with the snake, those outfits were nice, and I didn't see anything wrong with them. It was only when she went from wearing clothes like that to literally wearing underwear and looking like she's just about to have some sort of group orgy. That was when I started thinking, yeah, this is too much. But she obviously continued it because she liked the attention that she got, and I feel like to make a person, I'm thinking, nice, what does it actually take to make some? I wouldn't want it to make someone that drives themselves mad, but I would want to make someone who kind of represents what the world wants, which is many things, including sex, and probably a lot of people want group orgies as well, and a lot of people like sex, so it should have to be highly sexualized. And then you think, well, what's the cause of this? What's the root of this? It's never okay to finger children or anything. But at the same time, if those children, die before they get to an age where they start realizing it, I would say the angel of truth and stuff, to make her how she is, I would say she would probably have had lives in her past. She would have gone through bad, good and bad, but she probably would have lived to a very mature age so that she can reflect on all the things that have happened and learn from it. And while if someone has a short life, they never get to reflect and change on their past experiences, and so that they aren't very smart, I guess, because they've never really gone past the age of 15, which is that someone like her. I feel like that's the reason why she doesn't reflect, or she doesn't, why she hasn't doesn't sometimes get, you, you know you, like with me, I when I was Aaliyah, I had an affair with R. Kelly. Now, if I would have lived to 27, I probably would have looked back at my 27-year-old, at the age of 27, and started looking back and thinking, oh, what really did we do, and do I actually remember all of it? And it feels weird to feel like I was with someone that was 20, that was that age. When I first realized that I was her, and I was 26 at the time, I didn't actually feel good. It's like, oh, so when I was 14 in my past life, I had a relationship with someone that I don't know what happened. I don't remember anything of what happened. Did we have sex at 14, or did we wait till 15? I don't know. And there was people saying that they did have sex when they were 14, and it's not a nice feeling. But I think because Aaliyah died when she was 21, she wouldn't have she wouldn't have cared. She would have just been like, oh, it was 5 years ago. I felt like a mature, grown up adult. And, looking back at my childhood, I felt like a grown, mature adult from the age of 12. And therefore, if I would have gone on to do that same thing again and had relationship, I did. When I was 12, I went on to chat rooms, pretending to be 18 because I got some sort of thrill from just having like loose sexual conversation with strangers. I don't really know why where that came from or anything, but if my past life was her, then I feel like maybe that's why I didn't see something like that as being wrong, because in my past life, I never learnt to feel that would be wrong, because that's not how Aaliyah would have felt. She wouldn't have seen it that way. Now that I know that I'm billions of years old, I also feel like it's not wrong, because technically I will always be older than him, even when I'm 12. But yeah, it's not good, because when you're a child, you don't have a full understanding of you don't have that much memory, you don't have that much life experiences. And R. Kelly would have seemed like the amazing thing, when you get older, you kind of think like, well, actually, there's probably people that are more right or more suited for me. And I'm not saying, I'm still not saying that it was wrong, that relationship. I feel like it needed to happen, because then you can learn from it. Yeah, but when I'm putting that life, and I'm connecting with Brittany, I feel like, yeah, there is definite similarities. And I feel like if she did go through a life where a father treated her like amazingly, like a princess, you know, giving her so much attention. You know, she would have loved this. It would have built up her character. It would have made her feel like this was okay. In this vision, this guy did start touching her legs inappropriately, and I was just like, yeah, I feel like this is there's more to this story that I think I always saw that doll-like character that she was turned into, but yeah, I think it did in this new vision. I was just like, yeah, I think it turned into something. But at the same time, this shows in this life, you know, when she was not when she was working for Disney, because I feel like they did everything professionally or properly. I don't know if there's pedophilia in Disney, but there's pedophilia everywhere, so maybe. But you know, this is why pedophilia probably is so strong. You know, why would a pedophile think that it's okay to touch children? And I feel like the subconscious of their understanding of why they feel this is actually maybe in a past life someone did this to them, but they died before they reached an age where they realize they could understand that it's wrong. You know, if someone is touching you, or even going as far as sex and having sex with you, and then you die before, you know, die at a young age, maybe from diseases, maybe from pregnancy. You know, pregnancy is a big reason why you shouldn't have sex with kids, because they could get pregnant and they could die from it, and also they'll ruin their life because for the rest of their life they have to look after this baby. So you've changed their whole life, and you've done it at a time where they didn't really have much say, because they're very vulnerable and you know, more open to learn from you. And well, if you taught them wrongly, then if they die and then go on to have another life, you know, they're going to come on to be a pedophile. And then if you think about all the pedophiles who get massively attacked and you know, hurt by people, you know, I think it's sad to think that the truth is actually what they're doing on other people or other people's kids. It might have been something exactly that happened to them, but they were the kid, they were the victim, and they've died at a young age. And in this life, they still have this belief that it's not wrong, and that's how it, you know, that they wouldn't see it as wrong. You know, if someone's treating them amazingly, giving them candy and sweets, and you know, say if they've had a bad parents that kick them around a bit, and then they meet a neighbor or someone who lives around the corner, and they're giving them lots of treats and attention, and oh yeah, fingering them, or maybe taking it further, you know, the child wouldn't see what this person is doing as wrong. They would see it as, wow, I'm getting away from the family. And say if that person then dies at a young age, you know, they would be reborn and still believe that this is nice, because you know, you're giving a child, making them feel special. You're giving them you're giving them whatever they want, and because they're children, they don't really want that much. They just, you know, you can give them a cardboard box to play with if they're very young, and you know, it's easy to please children because they don't expect much. When they start growing older, they start realizing, I want cars, and respect as well is something that older children start wanting. And if the actual intention of giving them lots of stuff is actually to kind of abuse them in a way, you know, or when they get older, they start seeing it as abuse, hence they start seeing it as wrong. And, you know, when they start seeing it as wrong, you know, they change and they realize that actually, yeah, this is wrong. But I feel like this is the root cause of pedophilia, and it's wrong and it shouldn't happen. But at the same time, the only real, you learn from experiences that hurt you. And if something doesn't hurt you, then you don't learn that it's wrong. And you know, a lot of people would say that it's wrong to marry at 15, and I really don't believe that, because I feel like, well, Aaliyah did that or tried to do that, and she didn't think it. I don't take marriage seriously. I feel like marriage here is taken way too seriously, and it is a form of making money. The good thing that the Britney fan was saying, you know, that marriage is just used as a way of lawyers to make money, and you know, hey, you can have your ceremony and you can have your grand day, get all the attention. I feel like Britney Spears has a need for attention, and that makes me think that maybe she had a life once where she never got attention. I think once, a very long time ago, she would have had a life as a child where she was never allowed to have any kind of attention, and I feel like that would have grown something inside of her that made her have this need for attention. And then in another life, she got that need for attention. Someone gave her lots of attention, probably for wrong reasons, but again, because she died as a child, she didn't realize that was wrong. And then she had another life where she learned to dance and learned to learned skills and stuff. And so, yeah, this is, as a god, I feel like Brittany is an interesting character because she's been shaped in a way that would make her how she is. But yeah, I feel on one hand quite protective over her, but on the other hand, I do feel like she's an annoying, bratty child, um, who often gets what her way is. And but then she was quite strict towards her children, and I feel like this strictness, her being strict towards her child, is actually just acting out on the memory. I have this memory of her being forced to be a ballet dancer, her loving it and wanting to, liking the attention that she got from teachers to, force her to do this. Um, but yeah, I feel like that's why she would be extra strict on her children, because she felt that in her past life someone was strict on her, but because she never got to a certain age, she never looked back and thought, actually, this isn't right. And the Angel of Truth does have a lot more maturity to her, and I'm thinking, why is she different? What's the psychology behind her? Why is she different? And I feel like, well, she, I think, lived in all her lives, probably, lived for a very long age, hence got to reflect on all the things of her past. So, there's good and bad in everything, and if you want to always be a child and always have this youthful personality and sort of innocence to the world, then always killing yourself before 15 is the way to do it. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily see it that way. I'm sure there's loads of parents who have lost their kids and to suicide, and it's really hurt them. But I think there would be some sort of encouragement to know that actually there is good in always dying as a child, because you have this, like Brittany had, not now but before, they have this desire of innocence to just please others, whilst also getting attention, because this is all the things that you gain when it was a child. So I feel like Brittany's character has been shaped on, you can see it in her that she's got this need for attention. This is what children are. Children have this need, and because I think she's had 15 lives as a child, she's developed this. But at the same time, it's also important to have some lives where you get to be a fully grown adult, because that's when you learn to reflect on everything. You learn to change. You learn to think, was this right? If is it right that a 27-year-old should be with have sex with a 14-year-old? As a how old am I now? 36. As a 36-year-old, I'm thinking back and thinking, no, I don't think that's right. 15, I still maintain that 15 is okay, because we all reincarnate, and we need to learn to be smart at 15, um, smart enough to make our decisions. And it's only just sex. I mean, it's not like it's that bad. There's some, I'm sure there's some that are really bad, and there's some gang raping of a 15-year-old. My god, that's 100% wrong. And I think that would 100% screw someone up, so that if they die and come back with all these weird desires, I feel like you've not just ruined their life, but again, if they die straight away, then they might just forget the act and not happen, and it might not affect their next life, unless of course they're raped, in which case it might start triggering past memories that might start screwing up their life. But yeah, mental illness is something that is very important, because a lot of people go through mental illness, and a lot of people have different degrees of it, and a lot of people react differently. If an ant just has to choose left or right, and that's all. There's no character, no personality, no nothing to an ant. But as they grow up, as a soul grows up, it has more experiences and it changes. But I feel like the same level can be done when in your human form. Your past lives form who you are, and if someone is experiencing the desire to love a child, or in an inappropriate way, you could hate them for this, but at the same time, I feel like you become smarter. You yourself become smarter if you can understand that where these needs come from, and not just hate people for their madness, but rather realize that all these lives have had different lives. And I feel like, because my higher self has created sort of angels, by that, I think she knows that they've gone through, you know, Doja Cat has a very high sexual charge. Now, what would her past life be to get this high sexual charge? Do you know what I think it is? I think she probably had a life where someone was forcing her not to have sex. Sex is bad, sex is bad, sex is bad, and this drive of her teaching her in her past life that sex is wrong, and you shouldn't have it, and making her maybe getting pregnant at a young age and forever being, she probably had a life like that, and now that she's not out, she's out of that, and she's got this sexual liberation. She feels free to do to be as sexual as one, to not feel like this restraint is on her. But yeah, God didn't make all these things happen, and it's bad that this has happened. But at the same time, a lot of people have had this shame of feeling like bad sex is bad, and in a long time ago, people had huge amounts of clothing, and I feel like a part of that is actually taken from the contradiction of, Darla had no clothing, and so the fact that when clothing started becoming, a thing, as much of it as possible shows as much as wealth, because that was the opposite desire of what her. So I feel like there's just lots of different levels on which you can see things, and I'm psychology is very interesting.